28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. We're a few days removed from that epic shit show in Atlanta. So I think we're all in a much better frame of mind. Let's go ahead and talk about the Lions game. So, Nick, give me some opening thoughts. What do you think? What do you feel? What's going to happen?
I guess our key to victory this week is luck. I don't think there's any way we can beat this team playing like we've played. I mean, 0% chance. I'm not even as high on them as both of you guys are. I believe Corey's kind of in Max's court with Detroit and, you know, their prospects for the postseason and everything. I think they're the top second tier team in the NFC behind San Fran and the Eagles, and, you know, kind of in that Dallas category. But this team's playing so much better than us, it's not even funny. And they just laid an egg on Thanksgiving. I have a tough time believing it happens 2 weeks in a row. So I don't see a great path to victory, but I would say it starts with the defensive line getting pressure on Goff will be the only chance we have. And I have no idea how we would do that.
Well, to sum up what Nick said, he's saying pound the Detroit money line this weekend. So, Coy, what you got for me, man?
Or the spread. The spread's only 4.5 right now in favor of Detroit.
God, that's criminally low.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix. No, I mean, I'm firmly with Nick. Surprisingly, it's going to take luck. It's going to just luck. The ball's going to have to bounce our way if it pops out, literally. The penalties, the refs are going to have to be on our side. We're going to need every margin, every small advantage we can get. And I will say, you mentioned Goff. I think the one advantage, it's the first time I feel like in a long time we've seen just a pocket passer. I feel like every game has been a guy who can threaten you with running. Now, if we completely leave him open, yeah, Goff can like get that annoying 5-7 yards, but he's not anything like Ritter, Dobbs, even Tyler Bagent.
That's a really good point.
So,
I'm glad you brought that up because he's a statue.
That's if I'm looking at the team, and it's not, Nick, that I necessarily think they're like potential NFC conference champions. It's not necessarily that. I think the Lions are so good. It's just that they love to, I mean, they're a hard-nosed, physically minded team with Dan Campbell at the helm. They've got, Singletary and Gibbs toting the rock. I mean, they can run it if they want to, but the one positive thing,
Singletary.
Who's
Montgomery?
Montgomery.
There we go.
David Montgomery.
Yeah, I know who we're playing next week. Montgomery, that's what it is. That's Samsonite. That's it.
Well, you said Singletary, and at first I thought you were talking about the coaching staff. I'm like, wait a minute.
No,
Singletary's
no,
there
I just completely fucked that up. It's Montgomery. Thank you.
There we go. Carry on.
Yeah, as you were. Yes, their running backs can run it if they want to. If they choose to, they can do it. So matchups, don't like it. But the one positive is, hey, it's not a mobile quarterback. Maybe we can do something about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, though. You know, that's a fantastic point because Goff is not going to run. I mean, he would need to have the entire left side of the field like wide open with a herd of blockers for him to get more than 5 yards.
Look, our defense has proven they can do a lot of surprising things this year, even on the negative side. But you're right. He would need like the whole field would have to.
He would need a whole convoy. But no, back to Nick's original point. I think luck is going to be the biggest thing that would impact the game for us to win. You know, I really don't see any way we win this game. We're so banged up right now. You know, look at it from the offensive perspective. Olave, good possibility he misses the game, considering that the concussion protocols have gotten a lot stricter this year. Shaheed, it looks like he's going to be out with an ankle issue. You know, you got Michael Thomas is obviously already out. So you're looking at Lynn Bowden, Keith Kirkwood, A.T. Perry. I mean, that's That's a pretty grim scenario, man. That brings us back to a couple years ago when we had Callaway running as the number one. I think Deontay Hardy was the number two.
Isn't Callaway back on the team now?
He's on the practice squad. He's on the practice squad.
Look for the elevation. There's going to be enough other guys inactive.
Yeah, and I actually saw Dennis Allen reference something that Jimmy Graham might be part of the solution if we're so low on wide receivers, which
but
that doesn't inspire confidence at all. You know, he retired 2 years ago, and he's still retired.
Beyond literally not being able to put stock in a goddamn thing Dennis Allen has said this year, he has also tried to pump the Jimmy Graham fairy dust up our ass all year to no avail. You know, like the one game you keep this, not the one, but like one of the games you're going to keep this guy out of was Atlanta. You know, the goalposts there were like, oh, thank God, whenever they announced that news. You know, and we could have probably could have used him. I mean,
I don't think he can reach the goalpost anymore.
Debatable, but still, you know, it's like he says it. I don't know. I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it with Jimmy Graham and whatever DA says about him. But yeah, the injuries are not, they suck. They're a lot to overcome. And also too, this whole message of like, we're working really hard to fix it. Okay. You said that all year.
That's lip service, man.
Stop it.
They haven't fixed a fucking thing.
But more practically speaking, I look at it, it's like if what we saw in Atlanta was what you do with an entire bye week, you know, what are you going to change? Like, how are you going to make it different in a week against a formidable opponent? You know, what are we really, how can we really expect anything to be different? You know, and
what would you do, Corey?
What would I do? I would make them run gassers. Just
no, I mean, from a game plan standpoint, what would you do this week, knowing the situation with the injuries, and what would be your approach to just?
Well, hold on. Before you answer, Corey, let's go ahead and set the table for this, because we're going to be down your top three wide receivers.
Yeah.
We have not had a run more than 21 yards this season from a running back. We cannot run the ball at all. So our quarterback sucks. Now, what would you do now that I've set the scenario?
Okay, so most generally, from a big picture perspective, you can't show any more than like 50, 60% of what you've already put on tape. Like, you have to change things up from a general standpoint. You know, they've been game plan. You can't just say, oh, we're down Mike Thomas, Shaheed, and Olave, and just think that, okay, so we're going to run that with Kirkwood, A.T. Perry, and Lynn Bowden. No, that's not going to work. So work to your strengths. Okay, so now you've got Lynn Bowden out there, who you know is a fantastic blocker. You've got A.T. Perry, who can go high points and balls, presumably, as long as he doesn't think he went.
When he runs the route.
Did you hear what that was? He thought he false started, and he thought he heard a whistle. That's why he didn't run. So as long as he just runs, rookie mistake, literally. But you have to just do things different, but work to the strengths of the guys around you. And also, to me, a huge dose, much more of a dose of Taysom. You know, yeah, he fumbled. It was his first fumble in 3 years. You know, so
you sure about that?
Yeah, they said it. It was his first. I was surprised too, because we were texting saying that he's due for one, but he hadn't fumbled in a long time. So that's not enough to just take carries away from him. Change it up to where whatever they've tried to game plan on defense is going to be tough to do. Maybe even bring in more tackle eligibles.
You're saying basically line up and try to pound them.
Try to pound them, but you're going to need to just get the ball out in space more to the perimeters. You know, with your backs, maybe with Taysom, maybe with Juwan. I mean, shit. Foster hasn't really been targeted in the passing game. They might not be expecting that. You know, use the new personnel to your advantage. They don't have tape on a lot of these guys, so use them in a way they haven't seen before.
All right,
yeah, they did misspeak about that. He has fumbled. He hasn't lost a fumble in 3 years.
Okay,
so,
that's fair.
But
I know he's fumbled. He's got those baby hands, even though he's an oversized mutant caveman.
I mean, we all love him, but he's a notorious fumbler. He has like over 30 in his career, and on, you know, not that many touches. You know, kind of pretty big. You know, part of his problem as a quarterback was not being able to hold. If you remember, when he was the starter for those series of games, it was a fumble every game.
Yep. Oh, one thing I'll add, though, I do have to add this. You have to try to establish the run. I was looking at the stats, Lions, Bears. The Bears had 183 rushing yards against the Lions. You know, at least see if you can get the run game to work in addition to everything else I said. You have to at least give it a go.
I asked you first because that's exactly what I was going to say. Taysom needs to play 30 snaps. There's no way you abandon Taysom because of that. It's just that's the Saints this year. His one mistake this whole year, in my opinion, other than maybe that one drop that we've talked about extensively, was at the complete wrong time, as it's been all year for almost everyone on this team. We're going in for a go-ahead score. He fumbles. It was a horrible time to fumble, but it's literally the first big mistake he's made all year. We're not going to get away from him. And in this game, I think it's one of those games he has to have 12 rushes, 4 catches, maybe even throw a couple passes just to throw up something different at him. And we have to run the ball 35 times this game. We cannot keep putting their offense back out there. We've got to limit possessions. We got to do what the Falcons tried to do to us and just, limit the possessions, hold the ball, play the time possession game. And, we're going to need one of those Taysom games to win this. Max always says it once a year. He comes out of nowhere and puts up this insane stat line, and we win a game because he has 9 carries for 102 yards and a touchdown and a receiving touch. We're going to need one of those. I don't see how we win any other way. Or AK having 8 catches and breaking one, and 150 total yards. There's just no other path to victory than holding the ball, limiting their possessions, and a heavy dose of Taysom, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm glad you threw Kamara in there because, to me, for them to have a chance of winning this game, aside from having a shit ton of luck, you need Taysom and Kamara to have their game of the season. I think between the two of them, they need to combine for 200, 225 rushing and receiving yards. Yeah. And like you said, Taysom needs to throw a couple passes because he's going to have to keep them honest. Because right now, they know we're going to go in there trying to run the ball. Like, they're going to look at the wide receivers and say, okay, we don't respect any of these guys. They're going to look at the tight end and say, these guys have done jack shit the entire season. We don't respect these guys. And then you also got to factor in Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn came from the Saints before they went to Detroit. So they're familiar with Pete Carmichael's system. They're familiar with some of the personnel. Obviously, not all of these guys were on the team when those two were coaching. But they're familiar with what's going on. This is not going to be some new concept for offense that they haven't seen before. So,
and vice versa to a certain extent, if we're being
to a certain extent. Right? But the Ben Johnson factor, to me, this is going to be, we're going to get to see what Ben Johnson's made of this week when he starts cooking up all sorts of crazy plays. And my guy, my draft crush, Jahmyr Gibbs is gonna eat this weekend. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think if they want to put their money where their mouth is in terms of we're going to do everything we can to correct this, we're going to work really hard, well, then come up with some completely new packages, some completely new plays, and stay longer to drill them until you get them right in practice this week. I mean, I know there's rules about how long they actually can practice and stuff, but just that's how they're going to have any chance. I'm not saying it's going to lead them to definite success, but if they keep showing up with the same plays that they've been showing up with week after week, and just trying to insert new receivers into the same play calls, it ain't going to work. It's just not. Something has to change on the run blocking scheme with the offensive line. I don't know what. I'm not an offensive line coach, but whatever they're doing, they're not getting space for their guys. I mean, I'll say this: they did have some good in between the tackle runs against Atlanta. They were making some hay. But it's like we said, it was just this inconsistency. Like they would have a 7-yard gain and then follow it with like 2, or 2 7-yard gains and then follow it with 3. It's just gotta if you're gonna do it, like, I mean, God damn it, line up across from him and just punch him in the nose. Just do it.
Yeah,
I thought it was one of our better run blocking games.
I was about to say that Kamara actually had some room, and it's.
Well, that's why I corrected myself because I thought about it. I'm like, wait, he did have some good runs.
The offensive line wasn't abysmal.
No, this game
we were moving the ball.
Yeah, I don't think the Falcons game was on them, but I think whatever they can take from the good in Atlanta from the O-line, just take that into the game against Detroit, because we need to rely on anything that we can perceive to be a strength. It just got to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch, man, because look, we're a little late in the season for these guys to be rolling out all new packages. I mean, it's just not going to happen. That's just not the way things happen in the NFL.
Not all new, but just something. I mean,
a wrinkle or two. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
A few wrinkles here and there, but for the most part, you're not going to catch Detroit off guard in this game with anything you throw out there. Like, they know at the end of the day, like I said a few minutes ago, we're down to the end of the depth chart at wide receiver. The tight ends are awful. The offensive line is underperformed. The running backs have underperformed. The quarterback has underperformed. Like, it is going to be, they know what we're going to do, or what we're going to attempt to do.
Well, so in that scenario,
you got to hope Taysom or Kamara pops off a big run.
Well, in that scenario, it turns into every player on offense, Carr included, Taysom included, Alvin included, top to bottom, has to go back to the Sean Payton big-ass poster they put in that indoor facility and say, do your job. But it's not just do your job. It's do your job every single fucking play. No mistakes, no penalties. They're going to have some, of course. But, I mean, if there's ever a game to do it, it's this one because, look, again, I don't think that any of us think we're going to win. But you drop this one, you're 2 games below 500, and all of a sudden that easy, quote-unquote easy schedule, you don't have a lot of confidence going into it.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
If you catch a loss and an Atlanta win this week, you can probably write off the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's when my question from last episode becomes more and more poignant. And in fact, I think it becomes more and more poignant either each week or after each next loss we have is, what is it that you're trying to do as a team?
Well, that's not changing. That's not going to change no matter what, because the reality is our division is so bad that no matter if we lose this game, we lose the next week, I promise you Atlanta will equally fuck up somehow, and we will be in contention for that division championship going into the last week of the season. I promise you.
And even if we're not, trade deadlines pass, there's nothing to be done here in the last 6 weeks as far as what are we going to be next year, right?
Right.
Like it's go for it, and the chips fall where they may. We're not going to tank for a 3 higher.
Oh no, we're not going to tank. But it's like, do you start getting it? If the division,
Corey, they're not going to change any. The mindset is going to be win the division until the end of the season, no matter what happens in the next 6 weeks.
But this question is more to y'all. We all know we can predict our own front office and organization at this point. But I mean, like you said, Nick, if Atlanta continues to win, they have a ridiculous, easier slate of games coming up than us. Maybe it's going to be tough going up to New York. They have to go to Chicago on the 31st. Maybe the cold weather will affect them. But if the division becomes in a write-off situation, do y'all do anything differently? Do you try to put different personnel in there?
I would, but the Saints are not. So
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it's me, once you're out of the division race and you're not going to win it, I'm throwing in Jake Hayner, and I want to see if he's got anything.
Sure.
I know what Jameis is. I don't need to see Jameis. But this is kind of it's a complete hypothetical, given that the Saints front office is going to do things the complete opposite of how we would do them. Yeah. You know what I mean? They are locked in, for better or worse. They are locked in on the mindset of, we are going to win this division. We're going to play to win this division until the very end.
Okay, now let me ask you all this. This isn't a hypothetical, but it's been thrown out there a lot. On the Twitter streets, which are melting with the heat right now. Do either of y'all think, knowing that the goal is still win the division, do either of y'all think that Jameis Winston gives you a better chance to do that than Derek Carr? As bad as Derek Carr looked, last week? No. And
I do not.
Why?
I look, Jameis is a turnover machine. And look, it was so much fun. I'll be honest with you, it was so much fun to watch him play in the second half of the Vikings game, because I had already written that game off at halftime.
Yeah.
What happened in the first half, I said, this game's over. We're not coming back and winning this game. Jameis came in, gave me about 20 minutes of just, basically it's like a mindless summer popcorn movie. You know what I mean? Like, you're not expecting an Oscar performance, but you can just go watch a movie and just have a good time and just say, let me just see the fireworks. And that's what Jameis did. He comes in, and it was perfect for him. It plays to his strength. Let me just throw the ball 30 yards at least on every single play. Let me just chuck it up and, as he likes to say, put it in God's hands. And look, that was fun to watch. But do I think that he can do that, or you can play him from the beginning of the game over the next 6 weeks and have it be more effective than Carr? No, I think he would be equally as ineffective as Carr is.
Yeah. With this team, you cannot give them extra possessions. Okay, the only reason these games are close is that we're not really turning the ball over. If we go to that, I mean, this could get seriously ugly. I mean, that defense get worn down even more than it is. I just don't think it's a good fit you know, what he does is a negative. The
look,
one thing I want
his
to say,
YOLO. Yeah, go ahead.
it's fun. It's fun. I
It's
agree,
fun, exactly.
but like it would be worse for this setup of a team. The one thing I wanted to say about what Max said, as far as the game plan, we're not going to completely change the game plan, and that's why I think the Taysom. There's a whole Taysom game plan already been here for 5 years, right? So they don't have to do a lot different, and it could look completely different, you know. So I think we all agree this has to be a Taysom game plan, no matter what. We're
Taysom
already
Camara.
built in. We
Taysom
practice
and
this.
Camara.
Right. We practice these plays. This is not a complete change of the offense. This is just institute the Taysom playbook and go.
Yeah, and execute correctly. But I had to ask y'all the Jameis question just because it's been such a topic. I mean, more than ever, there have been people saying now's the time to give him a shot, and he can't be worse than what Carr's been doing. And you know, but I do agree with y'all because I agree with y'all except for one thing. I do not think Jameis is fun. I think
he's not fun. He was fun in that particular half of football, just like he was fun in the second half of the season opening game against Atlanta in 2022.
It's a big debate off air with some friends of mine, my buddy Eric and my brother and other people too. It's like, but Jameis is fun. I'm like, is it fun losing? Is it fun throwing interceptions? I know what you said. Like, yeah, that half was, but I think it's a message that a lot of people say like, oh, but Jameis is so fun. And he's fun in press conferences. He's fun in the videos of him on the sideline. Like he was doing, he was ludicrous this past week with Carr just sitting there trying to bob his head, like whatever. But no, he's not. He's just not the answer.
Well, let me just say this. So, and I think the biggest thing about the Jameis Carr debate that you're seeing on social media is there's two camps in this debate.
People's camps are getting more and more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's the Carr supporters, and then there are the Jameis supporters. And these two do not mix.
Yeah, and I don't even think we're Carr supporters. I think I hate Carr. We call it as it is.
I love the Carr signing when we sign him. I do not like Carr at all anymore. I want him off the fucking team as quickly as humanly possible. But I do not want to see Jameis play ahead of Carr.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. I think the first time, a lot of people, when you say, no, Jameis would not be better than Carr right now, the first thing people say is, you really think Carr's that much better than Jameis? Like, it wouldn't be, you don't think it could get any worse?
Let me say this.
It's like, no, that's not the point. It's like, it's not that Carr is so much better than Jameis. Carr is the best bad option we have right now.
Here's the issue. Here's the issue with Jameis, and this is where the Jameis supporters get all of their ammunition. It is from the first 5 games of the 2021 season when he played and Sean Payton was still here. Yeah. And he had the 4 or 5 touchdowns in week 1 against the Packers. Yeah. And I think he threw 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in his 5 starts. That is just 2 stat lines that the Jameis supporters are holding up over everyone's head. And they're clinging on to it with dear life. And that is what they always will reference whenever the debate of Carr versus Jameis comes up. He started off with 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 2021. He had 100 and whatever QB rating.
The fourth quarter in Atlanta last year is another one.
Yeah, but they also, in the fourth quarter of Atlanta last year, they neglect to mention that Jameis was complete dog shit for the entire first half. Basically, the first 3 quarters. He couldn't move the ball.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
But look, once you start playing YOLO ball and you start just chucking it up, I mean, a small fraction of the time, the guys are going to catch it. But we know what Jameis is. He's creeping up on 30 years old. This is not a debate that needs to be had anymore. Jameis and Carr are both who they are. Yeah. And honestly, they're not far apart from what each other are. Carr's a more dependable Jameis, but you're not winning shit with either of them.
And I agreed that you said a key word there. It's not a debate that needs to be had. But if you're plugging in, I know you are, like the debate's flying right now. And it's just, to me.
Yeah, but those people they're not being real with the situation.
It's not the one to have. It's not the one that's going to, look, if your goal is still to win the division, that's not what's going to do it for you. Now, look, the players, there's valid points being made that the locker room might or does like Jameis more than Carr. That's fine. But that's not what's going to win you the division, is likability. And I get it. I get you want to play for a guy that you feel like you go out there and fight for more. But as much as you like the guy, as much more that you might emotionally want to fight for the guy, if the ball's in his hands and he's giving it away, then it doesn't matter how much you want to play for him because he's taking the ball out of your hands. You can't do shit.
Yeah, and again, I don't think we need to have the Jameis versus Carr debate anymore. We've beaten this horse. It's far beyond dead. And to answer your original question, what would I do? The second we're out of playoff contention and the division's gone, what I want to do is I want to see Jake Haener. I want to see if there's anything there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
but we're not going to do it. So it's honestly, it's almost a waste of time to even have that hypothetical.
Yeah.
But
I think the key to victory is not Jameis, but Taysom and mixing that in more.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement on what we need to do.
Yeah.
The recipe for success this week is a hell of a lot of luck and a hell of a lot of Taysom and Kamara. But let's go ahead and move into predictions. Nick, why don't you lead us off?
Wait.
Can't hear you, bud.
Wait, Nick, we can't hear you.
Hello?
There we go. We got Nick calling in
Okay.
from off-site. So Here we go.
That was strange. I don't even know what happened.
Nick is on location from California, getting ready to go eat some crabs. Lucky bastard. But give us your predictions.
Crabs in California. World famous.
Not false. I think it's a loss. Our defense hasn't had 30 scored on it this year, except I believe Jacksonville, which was a pick six included there. I think this is the game. Yeah, I think it's the game that it happens. I must say they get us for 31 to 20. Our defensive MVP, if you want to call it that this week, I'm going to say DeMario has 12 tackles because they're gashing us in the run, and he's getting a lot of meaningless tackles downfield, 5 and 6, 7 yards. Offensively, I'm going to say it's Taysom because I think that's our only chance to win. And I'll say he goes for 100 total yards and a touchdown. And I would say the only way we can flip that script is a +2 turnover in our favor. We've got to get Goff 2 to 3 times if we're going to have any chance of winning this game with that Taysom-Kamara game we discussed. So I think it would take all of that for us to win this game. So I'm saying double-digit loss with a Taysom-focused offense.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, prediction-wise. I'm saying they hang up 40 on us. This is going to be the game. I don't want to say the wheels fall off, but the wheels are going to be hanging on for dear life after this game. So I think let's go ahead and say they get 41. And I'm going to say we get, let's go with 13. We somehow, we scrape into a touchdown. It's either going to be Taysom or Kamara. One of them's going to pop off a long run late in the game when they're in prevent somehow. I don't know. We'll get a late touchdown somehow. But offensive MVP, I agree with you. I mean, it's going to be Taysom one way or the other. He's going to get more touches this game than he has all season, and as well he should. Defensive MVP, there will not be one. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a Lions MVP instead, and it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. He's going to light us the fuck up.
Well, you got to pick a Lions defensive MVP, right?
No, I'm going to pick an offensive guy because it's going to railroad our defense so bad that there's not going to be a defensive MVP. There's going to be the offensive MVP for the Lions.
I think that's a first in 28-3 podcast history where the.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Let me add a little color to it. I'm going to go ahead and say Jahmyr Gibbs has 175 total yards, 2 touchdowns.
Said 175 total?
Total, 2 touchdowns. But Corey, what you got for your predictions?
All right. Yeah, so I'm picking a loss. I mean, A, I don't like our prospects, but B, I think I have to. If y'all are both picking the same thing, I kind of have to pick the same thing at this point, so I don't fall too much further down in the standings.
Well, no, you should take the opposite.
Unless I'm sure of it. Unless I'm, this isn't the one to do that. Maybe
maybe next week.
Panthers, Giants could be one if y'all pick the same thing, but yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you know I'm not picking them to win the rest of the year. I'll just go ahead and lay that out for you. So you have a game plan and a roadmap.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. So if you want to go ahead and mount the comeback, you know what I'm picking.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I don't. What are the Falcons? Was it We lost 24-15. So I'm going to say the Lions get 28. I don't think it's going to be quite the barn burner. I think the defense, like we said, they do their best to affect Goff. Maybe DA, who hasn't called up many blitzes at all this year, dials up some more blitzes, and we can hold our own in the defensive backfield. But I'm going – I still think the offense struggles, or maybe they have a good first half and struggle in the second. Somewhere they hit a wall in there, so it's going to be 28-17 Lions.
Just so you know, we have 3 offensive touchdowns in the last 32 possessions.
I know.
One of them is Taysom throwing the ball, and 2 of them are Jameis throwing the ball.
Yeah, but we'll get to 17. But there might even be a defensive touchdown or defensive contributing touchdown in there. My Saints offensive MVP. God, this sucks.
Kirkwood?
I mean, better chance than ever, right? No, can't go with Kirkwood.
A.T. Perry?
Can't go with Kirkwood.
Lynn Bowden.
Lynn Bowden on reverses.
I'm going to go against my better judgment and go Kamara. It should be a Taysom heavy game, but I would hope. My hope is that Kamara, sees what they got on the other side of the field, has some motivation. The offensive line continues their, pretty decent play and gets him some blocks to get him some room on both running and passing plays. So I'm going to go
quite the optimist this week.
Well, I'm predicting the loss, so it's got to come from somewhere. Defensive MVP in this one is going to be I'm going to go with Paulson and Debo. He's, Goff will likely have time to get some balls out there to he's going to try to I don't think he's going to be afraid of a Debo like he would Lattimore, so he's going to throw it to their top guy. And I think Adebo's up to the task, at least get some pass defenses. Doesn't mean he's not going to allow at least a touchdown, but I think you're going to see a good game out of Paulson. So he's my defensive MVP.
I feel like Jamison Williams is going to tease me. He's been sitting on my fantasy bench for the last 2 seasons now. I feel like he's going to pop a long one on somebody.
Well, we said it last week. We said, the one thing after the whole preview podcast we did talk about with the Falcons was like, hey, we haven't really talked about Bijan that much. What if this is the game that he goes crazy? He didn't go crazy, but he had a damn good game against the Saints. And
and you saw
Jameson maybe this is the Jameson game.
Well, you saw how Bijan, when the one good play that Ritter actually made when he threw the touchdown to Bijan. If those guys have trouble keeping up with Bijan, they have no shot of keeping up with Gibbs. Because Gibbs is effectively a wide receiver just as much as he is a running back. So it's going to be interesting to watch. There's a lot of speed on that offense.
You cannot be putting linebackers on him at any point.
Yeah.
At any point.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up, any closing thoughts? Nick, you got anything else? Or
No, not really. Let's just pray something lucky happens.
Pray. Grab your rosary.
Luck. I mean, and every play they have to execute. If people are making mistakes, that's it. That's
you pretty much got to be flawless.
Yeah.
0 turnovers, 1 or 2 penalties max. I mean, it's all got to be, which is not our MO, as we know. So, I mean, it all has to be flawless this week for them to have a chance.
Yeah.
Basically, have to see a team that we don't recognize, but in a good way.
Yeah. So, well, we're basically praying for a miracle and throwing up a Hail Mary. So let's see what happens. But until next week, who dat?
What a comeback!